Welcome to The Business on Radio Verulam, the voice of your local business community.
Hello and welcome to The Business. I'm Victoria Scott with the show that's essential listening for the West Herts business community. This week's show is all about corporate social responsibility, or for those in the know, CSR. But what does it really mean? It seems to be the new zeitgeist for companies large and small. But is it more than doing a bit here and there for charity, turning the lights off to be a bit greener, or trying to assuage a bit of fat cat guilt and putting something back into society? Hopefully we'll find out a little bit more. As usual, we've been out and about getting opinion, experience, and all sorts of things from all sides of the CSR spectrum. So later we'll be hearing from Sukh Saini, the managing partner of Pictons Solicitors, Clare Gillies, the branch manager and community champion, which I love that name, community champion, at Barclays Bank, and also the very High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, Deborah Inskip. To add some real depth of knowledge and understanding in the studio, though, we have also got Jana Filosof, Director of CSR at the University of Herts Business School. So that's all to come, but as always, helping me along are Clare McAnulty and Roma Bhowmick. Hi Clare, hi Roma. Clare, how's your week been?
Yes, fine. Well, as the saying goes, I noticed in the paper this week, as we say, every cloud has a silver lining. And it seems that the Horsegate scandal and various other concerns about what is actually in our food has helped fuel a surge in small food retailers. A March 2014 study by insurance firm Simply Business discovered that there's now a quarter more independent food stores than there were a year ago. These include independent bakeries, fishmongers, delis and butchers. The study also identified an average increase of 18% in all kinds of British independent shops during the past year. This seems to support evidence from December that showed empty shops in the UK had fallen to their lowest level in 3.5 years. So good news. What do you think, Vicky? Do you think people are more discerning about what they're eating since the recent food scandals?
Well, I don't know. Do you know what? I think it's been a growing trend that people are just generally more interested in food. There's been so much food on the telly, so many sort of celebrity chefs, so many bake-offs and all of that sort of thing, that generally people are getting more interested in food. I mean, I've always been a bit of a foodie myself, and it's really great to hear about independent bakers and fishmongers and butchers. What about you, Roma?
Yeah, I think on top of all of that, everyone's so much more health conscious, aren't they? And, if you're not watching some programme about how you can, eat yourself slim, there's a book to go with it. Everyone seems to be focused on how to eat well, how to live better, and can't get my words out tonight, can I? Again. But I think also this whole issue of where does our food come from, the whole sourcing of food. And it's interesting that, as you say, Claire, in the research that you looked at, we're seeing quite an upturn in the good old-fashioned local butcher, baker, fishmonger and delis. So
There's I think the other thing are all these fantastic farmers markets that have been popping up everywhere. So local people can really get involved in local community. Yeah. It starts to become like a day out for the family, and you're investing in the local community as well as investing in your own health. Generally buying nicer foods, and actually, I think people have just got a bit fed up with the supermarkets sort of ruling the world.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's sort of all round. It's an interesting development. Yeah. So what have you been up to, Roma? We haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. It's great to see you back in.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've been swanning about. I've just come back, hot-footed it back from Bournemouth. So actually, I had a lovely couple of days actually in Bournemouth in the wonderful sunshine. I don't know what it's been like here, but it was beautifully warm down there. So that's been very nice. And as ever, we're really, really busy at University of Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire. I know we've got Jan in tonight to talk about corporate social responsibility with us. But lots happening all round, really.
Yeah, I've been out and about doing a few miles this week as well, in between clients. Like a lot of people, spent a bit of time sitting on the motorways, trying not to catch up with emails because I know that it's illegal. But I was sitting there, and then I saw this sign. It's not one that I've seen before. And it was really, really interesting because it got my marketing mind moving along, obviously quite a bit faster than my motor was. But the sign said, "Please bin your litter like everyone else." Brilliant, I thought. Very much change for the highways authorities to have, I'm sure, must have listened to some advice on how to get better response from motorists. Because rather than laying the law down, like they normally do, which sort of rules are made to be broken, what they've done is they've actually followed 3 golden rules when it comes to marketing, or, when it comes to trying to get someone to do something for you. And the first one is ask, don't tell. Please bin your litter. Rules are, as I said before, made to be broken. So when asked nicely, most people are pretty decent about their behaviour, and most people will respond. I think the second thing is to get a clear, succinct message across. It's very straightforward, that, isn't it? It's just so clear. And then finally, and this is the clever bit, it's the like everyone else. If you can make people believe that the message is directed specifically at you, and then at them, at you, whatever, and then make everyone aware that the peer group are already doing it, then most people will follow, because most people follow, most people don't lead. So good on you, highways authorities, for actually putting some clever signage up for a change. Let's hope it works, and I'd be really interested to know whether it does. Obviously, something that would be relatively easy to measure. So, that was interesting for me being out and about.
It's good old guilt, isn't it?
Turn
the guilt on, and that gets them every single time.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. So, here we are. We really want to hear your views. It's a show about the business community, so if you've got anything to say about what's going on out there in business, anything that's going on here in the studio that you want to comment on, if you think we're talking some sense, great. If you think we're not, then do contribute. Our studio number is 01727 839 926, or Twitter at RV The Business, and we'll be back after this short break.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Mosaic brings together a group of singers based in and around St Albans, each with a wealth of experience in a wide range of choirs in the UK and abroad. Mosaic have built a repertoire that covers pretty much everything, from Renaissance polyphony to contemporary classics. Bird and Berlin, Victoria and Vaughan Williams, Gesualdo and Gershwin, and many, many more. And they have pieced this all together to produce performances to the highest professional standards. The concerts they give each year provide you with good music, well sung, that is appreciated and enjoyed. For more details, visit mosaicchamberchoir.co.uk.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
Hi, I'm Kathy Weston.
And I'm Lydia El-Khoury.
Join us every Thursday evening on The Parent Show for expert interviews, local information about caring for children in West Herts,
and a What's On guide you just can't afford to miss. We're here every Thursday between 8 and 9 p.m. on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
Don't forget to tune in!
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Yes, this is The Business. This is the show about the business community, and we really do want to know what you think and what you can share with us. So please get in touch if you have anything to add to our discussion this evening. We're going to be talking about the value of corporate social responsibility from a business perspective. And, as always, to help us understand the basics, Roma Bhowmick is going to introduce our first guest. Over to you, Roma.
Okay, well, our first guest is Jana Filosof. Jan, perhaps you could introduce us officially. What's your title at the University of Hertfordshire?
Hi, good evening. My name is Jana Filosof. Thank you for having me here today, this evening. My official title is Director of Social Enterprise Unit. I'm a lecturer as well, and I do teach corporate social responsibility.
So we have a real expert in the studio, which is always good. So Jan, tell us, it's interesting you actually teach it, but you're also involved in a number of social enterprise programs and projects. Why is it the university are involved in something like corporate social responsibility, on top of teaching it, of course?
Well, if you don't mind me taking you back a little bit, the University of Hertfordshire has been in Hatfield for many, many, many years. And a few years back, also the business school moved to Hatfield, and the law school moved to Hatfield. So we're a huge part of the local community, and we have a huge impact on the local community. Sometimes the community wouldn't think it's such a great impact. So we think we need to give back. And the idea of corporate social responsibility, from the name itself, people might think it's only about corporations, big corporations, but it is actually about any organization giving back to the community. And that's how we got involved. The business school first, but the whole university is involved in corporate social responsibility, in social responsibility. We are very green, and we are trying to develop this in our students, and we are trying to lead by example, basically.
So what is corporate social responsibility, and what isn't it?
Well, what it isn't, it's not charity giving.
Right.
It's actually much more than just giving to charity, than just philanthropy. So philanthropy, I would say, is a part of corporate social responsibility, but it's not just giving money and forgetting about it. To me, the way I understand it, it's how you go on about doing your business. It's not about what you do with your profits. It's about how you make them.
Right, okay. And so, as you said a moment ago, people tend to think of corporate social responsibility, or CSR, as something that large companies should be and do get involved in. But I know that you do a lot of work, or encourage a lot of work, in the small and medium-sized enterprise, the SME community. Why is it important to SMEs as much as corporates?
Well, I think you should ask them why it's important for them, but they do definitely get engaged. It is important for the smaller and medium enterprise, SME community, as you call them. For the same reason, it's important for the big companies. It's part of how you go about your business. It's all the reasons we give the big companies. The small companies actually realize that we don't need to convince them. Whereas sometimes in the big company you might see it as a bolt-on, someone that comes and brings in, and now we have a corporate social responsibility unit, and only those people will tell us what to do. In a small company, it's often the founders, the owners, the people who work, they bring it in with them. That's part of what they are doing. So if we think about what is corporate social responsibility, it's about doing their business responsibly. So it's about treating your employees ethically, it's about treating your suppliers ethically, it's about thinking how you impact on the community around you, both in green way community, but also on the community. For example, in our environment, the university environment, we had a lot of complaints initially about students being noisy.
Right.
So we think we need to do something about it. We can't just say, well, we bring a lot of people in the local area and just leave them there without taking responsibility with what's happening with them. And the same goes for every business, I think. You need to be aware of how you impact your environment.
So I know that I've heard, in terms of corporate social responsibility, a lot in the news about examples like the factory in India where a number of workers were killed because they just hadn't taken care in terms of health and safety. But also we then heard about how they were perhaps overworked and even underpaid. And there's a lot of sort of media around those sorts of issues, but they're not the only issues, are they? You've just talked about being socially responsible in the context of you're making noise, you're disturbing the local community, therefore from an ethical and an appropriate perspective, you want to ensure that you're doing the right thing. What are some of the other issues maybe that SMEs might be thinking about in terms of corporate CSR?
Well, it's connecting with their suppliers. It's connecting with their customers. Their customers might want to hear what they're doing for their community. Their customers will be from their community. Usually SMEs don't go overseas to manufacture. They manufacture here. They sell to people around here. I heard you talking about the greengrocer and baker, and they are here. They're on your high street. If you don't respect your customers, if you don't respect your environment, you won't have customers. So small things that we do impact the environment hugely. You're aware, you're part of the Dragon's Apprentice. And you know how working with those young people and guiding them, those companies actually help them, those young people, but they also help the local charities. So they are not necessarily giving money to the local charity, but I think they're giving so much more than just money, because they give their expertise. They give opportunities to those young people to get involved and to teach them how to be responsible from a very young age.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, it's interesting you mentioned Dragon's Apprentice. I know the regional finals are this coming week at the university.
Yes.
And actually...
We're hosting it.
I know, and we have a team raising money for Radio Verulam. We did last year.
Oh, do you?
Vicky, you've actually been a mentor on the...
I've been a dragon.
You've been a dragon.
I have. It was a brilliant experience, and I think, Jan, you've put it in a nutshell, that it's a perfect, a virtuous circle of experience, of knowledge, of children's energies and enthusiasms and involvement in business at the same time as charities getting not only time but energy and also money out of it.
Yes.
So it's a fantastic way of developing businesses, school kids' approach to businesses, and also charity in the local community. But from my perspective, what I think is quite interesting is that this seems to be a relatively new thing. It seems to have grown very much more prevalent in the last 5 to 10 years at the max. Bigger companies have always been involved in, donating to charities or getting involved in charities, or in some way trying to be honest, quite often mitigate tax, to be frank. They then saw it as a very good way of developing team spirit and a cheap way of training, all sorts of different benefits. Now it's spreading throughout the smaller business community. Why do you think it's happening now so much more than it was in the past?
I think we hear more about it now. I believe it's been going on for much longer for small and medium businesses. We heard more about the big businesses talking about, we do this, we expand our reach to the society, we're becoming greener. And I think only recently the smaller companies caught up with the corporate social responsibility talk. But I think actually they've been doing the walk.
Yes.
Much earlier.
Maybe you're right.
Because for them it has been the way of doing business. So they were not calling, and they still don't call it corporate social responsibility. That's how they just conduct their business. They cannot afford not to. They cannot afford not to. Because they are part of the very small area they are in. So they have to get out there.
Sorry. I was going to say, what's interesting about that is essentially what you also seem to be saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's a really valuable commercial reason, if not only an ethical reason, to be corporate socially aware.
Yeah, I wouldn't separate them. I don't think you can do business unethically for a long period of time. You will be caught out. So good business is an ethical business, and it makes sense.
You might have just sort of cracked it there, though, in the sense that one of the things that's changed so dramatically over the last 10, 15 years is the power of the people. Because
Absolutely.
of social networking, because of the internet, businesses really cannot be unethical any longer because they will get found out very, very quickly.
Quicker, yeah.
And the world will know about them, whereas they could hide in the past. Now, there is nowhere to hide. So actually, you've got to get it right, and you've got to be seen to be getting it right as well as getting it right.
Yeah.
I think what's also quite interesting is, this is something that's been going on in the States for an awful long time. The States companies are very, very good at sort of showing off about things. They do like standing on the tables. We're not very, very good at that sort of thing in the UK. We're very much more
Maybe we should
sort
get a
of...
bit better.
Yeah, exactly.
we sort of tend to hide our lights under a bushel a little bit, and maybe we're just getting better at that too.
And that's why you brought a foreigner in.
Someone with an exotic accent.
Yes. I'll let the listeners guess my accent.
Where are you from?
Oh, that's a very long story. I think we don't have enough time to tell my story, so let's talk about CSR. I'll tell you at the end of the show.
When you must have had lots of successes over the last few years, but have there been any disasters where you've seen companies try and really get to grips with CSR, really do the right thing, but actually get it wrong?
Well, I'm coming from an academic perspective, and I'll give you an academic answer. I haven't seen case studies discussing it, but we also tend not to advertise things that don't succeed. So I'm not aware of disasters, but it doesn't mean that they never happened.
Yes.
I think one of the big disasters that I'm thinking of, and well, you might not call it a disaster, is this whole thing that happened with Primark when they were found out to have a very poor record in Southeast Asia. And to me, the reaction was disastrous because they went in and they sacked all those suppliers. And we need to think why was that happening? We need to take responsibility as consumers.
And that's always difficult.
If we were not buying those cheap clothes,
Yes.
and if we didn't think about this cheap fashion and fast fashion.
But isn't that always the biggest issue? Because it's like the whole Starbucks debate when consumers were going, well, in fact, social media, everyone was going mad about the fact that Starbucks weren't paying their taxes. And then the same, of course, was with Amazon. But at the end of the day, you walk past a Starbucks and it's almost all forgotten. People still go in and buy their coffee. There are those that will make a stand, but in general terms, do they really seem to have suffered?
I think one of those companies I've read recently that they've decided to actually pay the whole amount that they owe.
Starbucks,
so I think it is, again, the consumers can bring the company down as much as they raise the company. It's all in the hand of the consumer. So I think we all have the responsibility to take this action into our own hands. We should think, well, if this company doesn't do what I think is ethical, I'm just not going there. And
it is easier said than done, isn't it? And I think it's quite interesting because when I was hearing an interview with one of the suppliers of cheap labour, basically, from the Far East. And he was saying, this isn't just about providing cheap goods to clothes that sell cheap clothes. We are also charging this, we are also doing this work for top-end brands as well.
Yeah.
So, it's very much more about controlling the quality of the work environment and all of that, rather than assuming that because you're buying cheap clothes that they have, all of those places are all going to be not looking after workers in the Far East. It's more likely to be like that, but it's proved not to be the case, hasn't it?
Well, I'm sorry if I gave the impression that this is the chain of events. No, I think absolutely. It doesn't mean just because it's cheap, it means that they're not responsible. What I was suggesting is for us to investigate what's going on and to try and see where the coffee we're buying from or the T-shirt we're buying from, where does it come from? Not necessarily what country it comes from, but everything today is available. You can search on the internet and try, and the same way it was found out by somebody that they were manufacturing it unethically, we could have found it. But what I'm saying, our responsibility as a consumer, we tend to think only from our end. You know, we want this, without thinking one step further. How does this get into our basket? Yes.
Well, it was interesting that we were talking at the beginning of the show about the point that Clare brought up, which is that there are more local suppliers. People are more concerned about where their food came from, and it's really worked. And we are seeing more local suppliers, and we are seeing more people at farmers markets. So you're absolutely right, but it does take a while to get society going on these subjects, and it takes sort of a lot of bad news really before people start feeling that they've got to be aware of the clothes that they're wearing and the miles that their food has travelled, etc.
I think also going back to the additional point of the SMEs, if as a small business you're the sort of company that deals with larger business, so you're business to business and you're part of that whole chain, if they are very CSR focused and you're not yourself, as you rightly pointed out, Jan, also practicing in the same way, then they're unlikely to do business with you. So actually it's really important as an SME, not just in terms of the consumers that might engage with you, but if you're business to business, that you're the right kind of business that they would want to do business with.
And
if that makes
sense.
The
big companies are audited today. In CSR is being audited. So, they are looking sometimes very cynically, and we've seen it, and I'm not going to name names, but we've seen very cynical approach to getting their suppliers. They will have the questionnaire, and you have to tick the right boxes, and you might have been doing it for quite some time, so start talking about it.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, Jana, thank you so much. That's been, as ever, really informative. Typically, of course, we could have talked on and on. However, we're not going to lose you. I believe you've kindly agreed to stay with us for the rest of the show. And let's take a short break, and then we'll come back with some more.
Thank you very much.
If you want to know what's going on in St Albans and West Herts, then join Telegraph journalist Louisa Peacock as she debates the local current affairs and news of the week with live guests every Tuesday from 7 p.m. right here on 92.6 FM Radio Verulam. Tweet along with the show at RV Outspoken or at Louisa Peacock. Outspoken, Radio Verulam's local news and current affairs show with Louisa Peacock, Tuesdays 7 p.m. right here on 92.6 FM Radio Verulam.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Welcome back to The Business, where we are discussing the pros and cons of corporate social responsibility. In the studio with us, we have help from the very, very experienced Jana Filosof, Director of Director of Social Enterprise at the University of Herts Business School. So thanks, Jana, for all your comments. Just now, CSR has a few different sides, and last week I caught up with Sukh Saini, the managing partner of Pictons Solicitors. Now, I've known Pictons for quite a long time, and they've actively developed their CSR programme over the past few years, with what I think can probably be described as fantastic return on investment. Here's Sukh talking about how they got started.
Well, I think it's probably something that sort of was put on our radar 5 or 6 years ago, initially prompted by staff themselves. And I think our CSR programme really came out of a project we ran in relation to becoming more green as a business. And I think, that's what kick-started our CSR programme in itself. We gained ISO accreditation 4 or 5 years ago, which is an environmental standard which requires re-accreditation each year. And in order to gain an ISO accreditation, you need to prove that you are running your business in an environmental friendly way. But I think coming out of that sort of went hand in hand with our general CSR programme, which was to not only become more involved in the community itself not only by giving charitable donations, but by actually giving up our own time and our time of our staff to become involved with charity projects, but also by getting more stakeholder engagement as well and getting our staff more on board. And we've seen a whole range of benefits from running this programme over the last 4 or 5 years.
So it sounds as though it was really internally led, staff-led.
Absolutely, very much so. I mean, it very much came from staff, and I think that's probably what's made the project so successful, because I think without that staff engagement, it's quite difficult to get a project off the ground.
So the idea of, from a great height of managing partner, saying this is what you're going to do, it's not going to work. You need to have a grassroots involvement and interest in getting this sort of thing off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, not only was it staff-led initially, but it's almost been staff-led to some extent all the way through, because without staff involvement and staff wanting to get involved in projects and give up their time to help local communities and charity projects, it just wouldn't work.
And how do you decide what sort of things you're going to get involved in? You know, I know a lot of charities, when they're trying to make links with farms like Pictons, they get, sort of closed door, oh, we've already got our favourite charity. How does it work in terms of choosing who you're going to work with and which community events you're going to get involved in and who you're going to support?
That's very difficult, and I think in fairness there's a number of worthy projects in each of our locations which could probably benefit from some help from us. You know, obviously as an organisation we're not able to help everybody, but what we do try to do is to deal with every approach on its merits. And I think that's quite important as well. And what we do try to do is to support projects which are local to our communities, where we actually run our businesses from.
So there's clearly a benefit to Pictons in this whole activity. It's unusual and it's nice to hear about law firms putting a lot back into the community. But having heard you speak at the recent conference, there was an awful lot more benefit to Pictons than just feel-good factor.
Yeah, I mean, the feel-good factor in staff is just one aspect of it. I mean, there's actually a cost-saving aspect as well.
What's the cost-saving aspect?
Well, I think that sort of arises really out of our environmental-friendly approach to the way that we run our business. It's as simple as having staff recycle more. Obviously, we're a firm of solicitors, which usually means that there's a lot of paper. We've been more effective in recycling paper and cutting down our use of paper. We've been more effective in cutting down our use of electricity, etc. And I think in the first year of running the project, we saved about £20,000 off the bottom line, which is quite...
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
It is a lot of money to any business, regardless of your size. And actually, it sounds quite simple to do, and in many ways it is. But again, it involves stakeholder engagement. So as long as your staff are quite happy to be turning off lights when they leave the kitchen...
printing both sides of the paper.
Printing both sides, which is, actually a very easy thing to do. But again, it takes a certain element of education as well. So it's all well and good the staff wanting to do that. The project was actually led by one of our members of staff, who now is chair of the Green Business Network in Bedfordshire. And he invested a huge amount of time engaging with staff and telling them just the little things that they can do. It wasn't totally driven by cost savings from our point of view, but I mean, that was a massive benefit.
And what about the general effect on team morale? That's something that people talk about quite a lot when it comes to CSR. Working together as a team in a different environment. I don't know, digging a playground when managing partner in his rolled up jeans next to the sort of like the guy that cleans the bins. How's that worked for you?
Absolutely brilliantly. I mean, I think we've got to give some credit to our staff who have engaged entirely with the CSR programme that we've run. But I mean, I think it has boosted morale, and I think it's promoted a team ethic within our staff force. With people go out and give up their own time. We have a lot of them doing work, for example, for Keach in their own time, which is splendid, and it also gives the opportunity for staff to be taken out of the office environment and to be doing something with their colleagues in an environment completely different to the usual workplace, which I think does wonders for morale.
Yeah, so that's the people, and it's clearly helping the community. What about the Pictons brand? How does it help the Pictons brand?
I think it enhances our brand in many ways. I mean, I think the one thing that it enhances is our brand in our localities, because we're being associated with community projects, and I think that's quite a good association to have. And I think it also enhances customer loyalty as well. So I think a lot of people are very receptive to CSR and the work that businesses do in their communities, and I think it can only help that brand loyalty moving forward.
So would you be prepared to say that you think it's actually bought you business, the activities that you've been doing?
I think it's certainly brought us business locally. I think there's no shadow of a doubt in my mind that it has. I think from that point of view it's been very effective. And it's also helped us to tender for work as well. Again, I come back to the ISO accreditation. We're, I think, the only law firm locally that has that accreditation. I think there's only a handful across the country. And we actually won quite a large piece of work off the back of having ISO accreditation. So I think, again, it has generated more sales, and I think the programme has made us more productive as well by engaging the workforce.
And how do you tell people about the good work that you do? Because that's always a sticking point, isn't it? It's a bit tricky to sort of evangelise about how brilliant you are. It's a very American thing that the Brits aren't terribly good at.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, that's not been one of our main priorities. So I think, we do try to get our CSR message out there, but I think we try to do it quite subtly. Because, again, I think you're absolutely right. You could do it in a way in which it could sort of work against you, really. And I think, to be fair, of all the benefits I've spoken about, publicity isn't one of the key drivers for us running this project. So, as I said, I think, I think we have got some recognition, but it's probably not being pushed forcefully by us, our end.
And have you got any things coming up that are exciting, that are different, that are new challenges for Pictons in terms of the CSR programme? Yeah,
we've got a sort of number of sort of local projects that we're involved in. I think one of the key things is that we've recently become involved with a community radio station, a bit like Verulam in Luton, Diverse FM, and we've got, I give up my own time and go and help them out there and run some shows, and we've got staff members doing that as well, because like Verulam, they're a community radio station. So there's a number of new projects that we're always involved in. We've recently become involved with the Bangladeshi Youth Association in Luton, who are sort of very keen to help young Bangladeshis integrate into the society. So, when new projects arise, we're quite keen to get involved where we think it's appropriate.
It all sounds absolutely brilliant, and I really sort of commend all the work that you do. Thank you ever so much for agreeing to tell us all about it. If people want to get in touch with you, Sukh, at Pictons, how do they do it?
Yeah, easiest way is the website. Our address is www.pictons.co.uk. We also have Twitter, so our Twitter address is @Pictons if people prefer social media. We also have a Facebook page as well, which is facebook.com/Pictons. Or the traditional method is to give us a call. And,
God forbid anybody's still got a phone out there.
Our telephone number is 01582 870 870.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Sukh Saini of Pictons Solicitors.
So, some really interesting activities that they're getting involved in, and some very, very clear messages coming back about the return on the investment of the efforts that they're putting in. Is that return on investment something that people ought to be measuring when they get involved in the first instance in a corporate socialist responsibility, Jan?
I'm not sure if it's the first thing they should be measuring, but it is something that they do measure. They need to, they're required to often, especially when they go for loans. So if they need to obtain a loan and they ask to show how what they're doing is actually paying off, they have to demonstrate it, they have to measure it. And to be fair, the easiest way to measure is to become green.
Yes.
This is something that's very easy to demonstrate how you do it, but also how much it saves you. You can see how much it saves you on an electricity bill, on your printing cartridge wouldn't save you, but on paper. And to be fair, in university, since we became green, since we became more aware of the green impact, we've saved enormous amount of energy. We've saved, every printer is now set to print double-sided, and it's so easy to do. So there are some things that you actually don't feel you making any effort. It's not difficult to turn the lights off when you leave the room.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because those are the sorts of things that that you would think would just be matter of course, because business it's difficult to make money these days. So doing these sorts of things is very, very sensible for business as well as being corporate, socially responsible.
Yeah, I think it's a small amount in your everyday activity. And what I think that the perception of corporate social responsibility being such a huge title is that it has to be something grand. You have to go out there and raise £100,000, or to give somebody lots of money, or to do a huge project, adopt an orphan orphanage in Africa somewhere to be, for this to be said to be corporate social responsibility, whereas you start small.
Yeah.
If you're a small business, you can't do grand things, but you can do small things.
It's interesting what he said, Roma, about the being champions within the workforce. It seemed to work better if it's not coming from on high. If people within the workforce grab hold of it, get enthusiastic and get going.
And I think we're seeing more and more, aren't we, as well, within organisations, they encourage their managers to get involved for two reasons. One, it's about getting involved with the community, giving back to the community, but also in terms of developing their people. It's great for them to be able to learn the importance of giving back and using their management skills out there in the community. We're seeing more and more community projects all the time.
Yeah. So our next clip is Clare McAnulty. She went and met up with the branch manager and community champion. I couldn't get that right the first time, could I? Community champion of Barclays Bank, Clare Gillies, who, ironically, I thought, is very clear that CSR is about all sorts of things and not just about finance and tax mitigation.
For us, as I said at the conference, it's not just about the money, because we don't, sadly, much as we are a bank, have a pot of money that we can dish out. It'd be great if we did, but we don't. So what, for me, is trying to get people involved, and it's about the people. So it's people getting out from the bank, showing and using the skills that they've got to support our local communities, and that's where we want to make a difference. Is it's getting out, finding who in the local area needs support, how we can support them, and where our people in the organisation can get out and do something to improve the lives of the people around us, basically.
And is this quite a recent thing for Barclays? Why did Barclays decide to start doing that?
Do you know what? We've done it forever. I just think that it's become more prevalent in the out and about world, that people now are more aware of what companies are doing. We've always supported our staff to get out. We give them up to 2 days a year to get out and do various volunteering work, whether that's helping in a local school or whether it's working on a project that we've arranged with an organisation locally. We encourage our staff to do that. We've got various schemes in the organisation supporting different charities and ways that Barclays match fund, all sorts of things that we encourage our employees to get involved in.
So I came in today to your central Luton branch, which is a really beautiful branch. It's like being in the centre of London. But I noticed as I came in you had food bank boxes. Could you maybe tell me a little bit about those?
Yeah, so what we're doing in all of our local branches at the moment is just collecting for the food bank. Again, we know at the moment with what's going on in the world, people are struggling food-wise, so food banks are being used far more often, and for us it's just a way that, one, our staff can participate by bringing food in to put in the boxes, but also we're encouraging our customers to bring food in and just deposit them in the boxes. We're then having a central collection where the goods will all be rounded up and dished out to the people that need them. And we've done loads of different projects across from St Albans, Bedford, Luton area, but the one that I spoke about in particular was in Luton. It's in a little infant school, and basically what we did was we had a day. We took a team of our premier managers and a team of our operations specialists. They're the ladies and gents that look after the money, basically. Took them out, so they don't normally work together. We had a day to complete this garden project, so we completely stripped it. We built an outdoor playground for them. I say built it, cut some grass out, put some shingle down, used tree stumps to make little seats for them, planted some plants for them. We painted a fence, so nice bright colours for them so that it was a bit friendlier for the kids. We actually removed the gate because the garden wasn't used very much, so we took the gate off so that it was more welcoming. Built a little pagoda for them, just brightened it up, and it was probably one of the best ones I've done. It was just beautiful. And do you know what? The staff from Barclays that came along had an absolutely fantastic day. Really enjoyed it. I don't think I've ever seen them work so hard. Bless them. There was some pain at the end of the day as well, but just an overwhelming feeling. And then when the kids were coming past at the end of the day, just overjoyed by it, bless them. And that's the point, is it's where it's making a difference to the children and the communities that we're working within. So yeah, it was fantastic.
And from a business point of view then, does it help Barclays from a business point of view, or is it a bit more than that?
From many different views, you could see how it benefits Barclays. From a staff morale point of view, massive difference. From a point of view of our internal members of staff working together, like I said, it was a team of 2 different people that wouldn't normally work together. Actually, it builds those relationships as well. It provides a networking opportunity for our staff with different areas that may come and support events. And of course, it lets people see what great things Barclays do. We don't get a lot of good press, but actually we do some amazing things, and it's great for people to know about them.
And tell me a little bit about your collaboration with Tesco. So I understand you sort of hold a Christmas party here every year.
So it's something that we've done every year, but more so this year. We've put a lot more effort into it, and we're grateful to the relationship that we've now got with Tesco's as well, and the lovely Karen that we work with there. She came on board this year just to help us supply some refreshments as well to our customers. The parties are for our customers, so it's just a thank you for their business for the year, for coming in, for understanding the queues and things that they've had to suffer, all the sorts of things, just making them feel good on the day. We've done goodie bags for the kids, we had Father Christmas around, the staff dressed up. But what we actually did with Tesco's, as well as supporting on the day and having a bit of fun with our customers on the day, we put together just over 50 boxes, shoe boxes that we collected for a local homeless organisation. They house local homeless people, and we put together these boxes. All of the staff in Barclays across the region sent smellies and books and bits and bobs that we could put in these goodie boxes. And Tesco's brought along hats, scarf, gloves and various other things to absolutely fill these boxes, wrapped them all up and gave them to all the residents of Mary Sukh, who were exceedingly grateful.
And so in terms of the advantages that you get from participating in these different schemes, could you maybe just sum up for me the advantages?
I would encourage everybody, whether they're a big company or a little company, to get their employees to do these things. Great for staff morale, great for advocacy for your company, because people see you doing these great things. Massive feel-good factor for everybody involved, the people we're helping and the people that are doing the work. Just generally a really good feeling for everybody involved.
Gosh, I just love hearing Barclays say it's not all about the money. That's very, very satisfying. So we've heard about it from a local business perspective, Pictons, Solicitors. We've now heard about it from an international, massive organisation. Let's finally hear the other side of the coin, the community perspective. I had the pleasure of meeting up with the very perfect person to tell us all about CSR in the community.
I'm here with Deborah Inskip, who is the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, and Deborah is looking absolutely magnificent in her very beautiful navy jacket and hat, very much the High Sheriff. Tell me the role of the High Sheriff in corporate social responsibility.
As High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, I am the Queen's representative responsible for the judiciary and law and order. My particular focus is really trying to help young people, not only to keep them from offending and falling into crime, but really to enhance their life opportunities. And in that way, I've been trying to work with the various voluntary organisations who are working with young people and really get a feel for really what they're being able to have at schools, what in, say, PHSE is being given. And in many cases, it's unfortunately squeezed out. Yet in some areas around the county and some organisations, as we've heard from Barclays this morning, are doing a huge amount to actually try and equip young people, whilst they're still in schools, 16 to 17-year-olds, equip them better for life when they come out. Money management, self-esteem, confidence, CV writing, all the things that will hopefully try to equip them.
So how do small businesses in the West Herts area get involved in helping support those sorts of initiatives?
Small businesses, and I had my own small business for a long time in medical imaging, as it happens, I understand and absolutely appreciate there won't be spare money for these sorts of things, but small businesses, unless they were being successful, would not be there. And that means the people involved, the directors, the employees, they are all part of a vital team, and they each have specific skills, and it's those skills and the expertise that they could be engaging with various parts of the local community and young people in particular to actually bring their personal skills to help.
Right. So we quite often associate corporate social responsibility with with law firms and accountancy firms donating money. Bit of tax mitigation going on there as well. But it sounds to me, and from what I've heard today at the conference this morning, there's a lot more to it than donating money, and that sounds as though that's what you're talking about, skills.
Skills, and we've got lots and lots of good businesses in Hertfordshire and in Bedfordshire. Let's say building companies. They are really engaging with apprenticeship schemes and the various colleges and universities. Let's say suppliers of product for building, to be able to help support, say, refurbishments and...
Okay, so it's a lot more about money. So it could be about skills, it could be sharing skills, it could be about sharing a work environment, as you said,
Indeed.
So offering apprenticeships. You've just talked about materials. So a great example, that building supplier, maybe there's a bag of cement left over from a job. What could they be doing with that bag of cement? So it is about thinking laterally, but how do we get our small to medium-sized businesses in the area involved? Let's say I'm a building company. How do I know what to do with that bag? In fact, there's a very good example. I won a competition by accident. I won, rather than a trip to the Ashes in Australia, I won a huge, great big box full of Yorkshire tea. Now, we wouldn't get through that amount of Yorkshire tea in a lifetime.
In a charity auction too.
It was very difficult for me to get rid of
all
the
the tea bags.
And I finally found a lady that actually worked across a number of charities, and she was delighted. But it took a bit of perseverance to find that person. So how do small businesses figure out how to give that bag of cement or those 10 boxes of tea bags to the right places, if it is about supplies?
I suspect they need to perhaps get in touch with even the council, who will have there are registers of charities that would be really hugely grateful for anything they're able to give them, and perhaps honing in on particular ones depending what skills or what product or what they're trying, what they can offer.
We also heard from Sukh Saini of Pictons this morning, and I know that Pictons are very involved in social corporate responsibility, and he actually stood up there and he said that it's really helped Pictons build business, become more efficient at business, manage decision making, and all sorts of added benefits beyond actually contributing to the local community. So there's business benefit in here as well.
There is business benefit because it really draws together the employees of the various companies to be able to do something for their local community, and they're proud to do it. For example, the garden that
Barclays
were mentioning, 20 of their personnel, from high management level to somebody who perhaps would feel fearful of even saying hello to.
Yes, it can be a really great team builder, can't it?
Exactly. Yes.
And getting a load of executives digging gardens, I think it sounds like a
very
great,
creative, very therapeutic.
And then it also, from what the lady from Barclays was saying, it was also fantastically received by the teachers and the school. They just couldn't believe it.
It
and that
transformed
was a reward.
Their environment, and that is a really, really powerful, good thing to be able to do.
So, Jan, have you got any tips as to how small businesses can get involved in this sort of corporate social responsibility?
Yeah, Well, in St Albans, we have a great initiative called Connect St Albans, which brings together CVS St Albans, the local businesses, local charities, the university, and the local government. So just get in touch with them through CVS St Albans. They know of charities that have some needs, and they will connect you with anything that you can contribute. They can help you with putting you together with the charity that's appropriate for you.
Is that a website? Is it?
There is a website. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but I will give it to you guys, and you will tweet it and put it on your website.
So it's actually, sorry, I was going to say it's the Council for Voluntary Services St Albans, and as it happens, Danny, who presents our Drive Time show, has a regular monthly slot with CVS. They come on to talk about different things that they're involved in.
I think it was CVS that set up the Dragon's Apprentice.
Yes. Well, it's the Connect St Albans that set up the Dragon's Apprentice.
Connect St Albans.
So it's interesting because we all credit, and CVS have been doing a tremendous amount of work, but it's actually, and I have to give her credit, Penny Mortimer, a small business owner actually who represents businesses.
I know her very well. I worked with her for many years at Reader's Digest.
and she actually drives the Dragon's Apprentice. And we started with one school, 3 teams with one school. It's our 5th year. It's gone national now. We have teams in Surrey. Penny, forgive me if I'm not telling about every possible team, but it's something that started with Connect St Albans. And more and more charities are getting involved, more and more businesses. So if you as business think about CSR and you want to become a dragon, please contact them and contact us. Contact me at the University of Hertfordshire. We can put you together with charities that might need your expertise or your surplus.
Well, that's fantastic. So we will make sure that all of these pieces of information, how to get in touch with Jana, how to get in touch with the Connect St Albans, we'll make sure that all these go out on Twitter shortly. So we've learned an awful lot about corporate social responsibility tonight. Thank you enormously for staying in the studio with us. That's Jan, the Director of Social Enterprise Unit at the University of Hearts. Roma.
I was just going to say, Jana, I don't know if you want to give out, if you're happy to, your contact email address at the university. You said if people want to contact you.
Yeah, it's j.1.filosof@hearts.ac.uk.
And how do you spell Filosof?
Filos, as I say, for sugar, O-F.
Lovely. So, yes, sorry, Vicky.
So what have you learnt this evening, Roma?
Oh, my goodness, so much. I think I now fully understand what CSR is about, not just from the big corporate perspective, and that it's not all about who's not paying their taxes. And I think it's very exciting to think that there are so many projects going on. I know that Jan and people at the University of Hertfordshire, in conjunction with all these other groups, as Jan said, are very, very much involved in bringing the Hertfordshire and St Albans business community together. So tons, really.
So we've come to the end of the show. It's flown past as usual. If you want to get in touch with us, please do at RV The Business. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. If there's anything in the show you want to talk to us about, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.